All right, Brock Lesnar's Samoa Joe finally happening. And, this is a match that I've been dying to see for years. I actually had this match at number 3 on my top 20 dream matches video that I did back in 2012. So that kind of speaks to how anticipated this match is for me. And I think it's a match that, people that have followed both guys' careers are really eager to see it. It's definitely a WrestleMania worthy match. I think it deserves everyone's attention. This is the type of match that's going to make me run out and buy a WWE gift card. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right before Great Balls of Fire. So if you want to support Samoa Joe, I think everyone should do the same thing. Yeah, man. I'm really excited about the match, but at the same time, there's a little bit of mixed feelings as well. I definitely think that this is a match that should happen at WrestleMania or SummerSlam. This isn't some filler matchup right here. That would be disrespectful to Samoa Joe, and I'm very hesitant that they're going to kind of treat Joe like it's filler. It doesn't feel that way so far, but you never know, because I remember the last time Brock Lesnar had a July pay-per-view main event, it was against Seth Rollins, and that just ended up being filler so you could get to SummerSlam. So if you guys remember that, but yeah, man, the original plans were probably to go with Braun Strowman, and ultimately the plan is to go with Roman Reigns at a WrestleMania. I just think Joe is in kind of a tough spot right now because he's not one of Vince's creations. I think a lot of the guys that, we grew up watching in Ring of Honor and TNA, they're going to have a tough time because Vince is always going to want to put his creations over other guys like a Jinder Mahal or even a Braun Strowman. So, Joe has that to deal with. But at the same time, I think this has been a tremendous program so far. And I'm really happy for Joe because he's had a lot of ups and downs. But the segment with Heyman is kind of like everything came full circle. The guy that kind of, helped him become who he was in Ring of Honor. Gabe Sapolsky was mentored by Paul Heyman, and to see Heyman and him go out there and have that segment, it was kind of like it all came together. And, Heyman and Joe went out there, and you could tell Heyman had his hands all over that segment and that whole promo with Joe, and it just came off great. I think that's one of the best things that Joe's done in years. I think Joe is hot again. I think Joe is hungry right now. This is a huge opportunity for him to, reclaim his glory again. And this is not, to be honest with you, I was thinking, this is definitely the biggest opportunity Joe's had in the WWE, make no mistake about it. But if we're talking about pressure situations, Joe's so experienced. I wouldn't say that this is probably the biggest match that Joe's been involved in. You can make an argument that Joe versus Kobashi was a bigger match universally than this Joe versus Lesnar match. Even Angle and Joe, when you consider how important that was to TNA, you could argue that Joe versus Angle was an even bigger matchup. And then Joe's had, the match with Misawa. Some people would argue that was, the biggest opportunity that Joe got. So yeah, Joe's coming into this thing with a lot of experience. I just get this feeling that WWE could potentially just use this as filler and not give it the attention and promotion that it deserves. There's even some rumors out there that the only reason they're doing this is because of, the Strowman injury, or Jim Cornette proposed this on the table for 3, and that's why we're getting it. This is something that's not been in the plans, not been in the cards. So that's why I'm a little worried about the finish. I'm a little worried that, Joe is going to be fed to Brock, and we're going to get Suplex City in sort of a squash match. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but I think, just a huge opportunity for Joe to, put his career back on track. Cause let's be honest, man, Joe's had a bumpy ride, since 2008, since Kurt Angle came to TNA and kind of upstaged him as far as wins and losses go. Joe's never really got the momentum back, while he's kind of watched guys like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and AJ Styles really, kind of surpass Joe in terms of, historical placement in terms of all-time greats. But, I just want to kind of reflect on how important this is for both guys. Obviously, we know what Brock's done, the youngest WWE champion in WWE history by the time you get to SummerSlam 2002. And then on top of it, he goes to the UFC and becomes a huge box office draw there. So you basically have two guys that have dominated multiple promotions, Brock, WWE, and UFC. And then, really important is, I don't think anyone can really say this except maybe Hulk Hogan. How many guys can say that they're on the Mount Rushmore of two different wrestling promotions? Hogan could say that about, you could put Hogan on the WWE and WCW Mount Rushmore from a financial standpoint. You could argue that. But then at the same time, you could put Samoa Joe on the TNA Mount Rushmore, and obviously you put him on the Ring of Honor Mount Rushmore. But you can't really say the same thing for CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, or AJ Styles. I think Joe's the only one that could claim that honor. Joe to me, I was just thinking, going back and watching some old ROH compilations, it's so amazing what Joe did as far as, taking basically nothing and making it into something. Joe really did that with the Ring of Honor World title. I mean, if you look at the match when Joe won the ROH title at Night of Champions in 2003 from Xavier, and then you fast forward to when Austin Aries beat Samoa Joe for the title, just look at how different, the crowd was from one match to the next. Just the reaction and the moments were just so different. And, Joe just made that title so important. And, it's just, it's amazing what he did. He really deserves a lot of credit for, making, I would call him like the Babe Ruth of Ring of Honor. He just kind of fits that mold. So, Joe, this is just not some, another indie wrestler. This is a very, very, phenomenal talent, Samoa Joe. I just hope the WWE just gives it the respect and the attention that it deserves. And so far, so good. I think the Joe and Lesnar program has generated a ton of buzz. And, most likely it feels like filler. It feels like, initially, it just feels like Lesnar's going to win this match and go on to face Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, or maybe, Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns, or maybe a Finn Balor at SummerSlam. That's probably what's going to happen. But, sometimes, like, if a program gets hot, and I'm just hoping this gets to the point where Vince doesn't really know Joe that well. I just get the feeling some of the people in WWE, they don't know what Joe's done in terms of what he's done for Ring of Honor and TNA, in terms of making those companies, more financially successful. Joe is he's a huge draw. He really is. When you look at the accomplishments that he's done, biggest TNA buy rates of all time, or the Joe matches with Angle. But I'm just hoping that Vince is just kind of shocked by how awesome Joe can be as a performer, as someone that could, make people care about his matches. That Vince will change plans if he sees a change in the tone of the reaction in the crowds. And I think so far so good. I think the Joe and Lesnar program is definitely off to a hot start. The Heyman segment was gold. I think the stuff that he did with Brock was fine. The headbutt on Brock. It wasn't anything like the Joe and Angle headbutt, but, it was good. It was good intensity. I love Lesnar taking out the security. Wish Lesnar would get on the mic and do some other stuff, but some people would argue that you need to keep Lesnar away from the mic, and that's fine. And I also think the other possibility is, I wouldn't mind seeing Joe and Heyman, team up together. I think in some ways the Brock and Heyman relationship, with Brock just being a Terminator, not saying anything, and Heyman doing all the dirty work, I think it's somewhat run its course. And I really wouldn't mind Joe and Heyman to team up together, because you do have that real life relationship there with Joe, Heyman, and Gabe Sapolsky. That whole, Heyman and Joe, or Joe and Gabe are part of the Heyman tree. The Heyman seeds. So you could definitely argue that has some realism to it. So yeah, man, I'm just excited about the match. I think if this is promoted right with the hot crowd, they're going to be in Dallas, so that's always a hot crowd. That Dallas gets a lot of a very underrated wrestling crowd. That Dallas crowd. If you guys remember Slammiversary 2012 in Dallas, I thought that was an incredible crowd for a TNA show. So yeah, I think if this is promoted right, and booked right, and it just has the right feel to it, I think this could be an amazing. I think it would be kind of like on the level of some of the Cena and Brock matches, where it's got very bloody, very intense, a lot of high-powered impact spots, and I just think this could be potentially something we could look back on and, talk about for years. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much the end of the video. I'm also excited to see what Kurt Angle does. I think Triple H and Kurt Angle needs to happen at SummerSlam. I don't really feel like waiting until WrestleMania, but, bottom line is my conclusion to the video is I just hope that this Great Balls of Fire match isn't filler, and hopefully, the Brock and Joe program will expand into, I don't want to say WrestleMania. I think that's asking for too much, but I think it's definitely deserving to, be carried over into SummerSlam, because it's definitely a SummerSlam worthy match if you don't want to argue that it's a WrestleMania match. So let me know what you guys think. Looking forward to it. It's definitely worth the money. I'm going to go out and get another WWE gift card before Great Balls of Fire, and we'll see what happens. All right, thanks, guys. Take care, and I'll see you later.